So if you've been following the news, you know that the coronavirus scare is a pretty big thing in the Seattle area. The death count so far, 9 people in Washington state out of the 7.5 million people who live in the state. You know, percentage wise, that's like, let's just say a lot of zeros to the right of the decimal point. So, that's why I'm not worried about that. Well, last week, the county I live in moved to phase 2 of the state's safe reopening plan, which to me personally doesn't really mean a whole lot, because basically we're allowed to do a few things that I don't really have much interest in doing. We're allowed to gather in groups of less than 5. It's not really something that my wife and I were really doing a whole lot of before the pandemic. Restaurants are allowed to open at less than 50% capacity, which means people that were dying to get out are going to be flocking to these restaurants, and so because they can only be half full, they're going to fill up fast, and then there's going to be long waits to get in. So I think I'd still rather just eat at home. Work is still going to be online. Church is still going to be online. Still going to wear a mask. Oh, that's the other thing. Our state government just decided that wearing a mask in public is going to be mandatory now, which is giving some people even more stuff to complain about. I still don't really see the big deal. Like, what's the problem with wearing a mask? I mean, sure, they're not the most comfortable things to wear, but I mean, you get used to it after a while. It just sounds like people's complaints are just like the fact that the government is forcing us to do this thing that, like, it's just another form of control. I mean, I could say the same thing about laws being imposed on how fast I can drive on the highway. I don't like that either, but I understand the reason for it. One argument that I've commonly heard from people who complain about wearing a mask is like, it's not going to stop the virus from getting through. Well, sure, but it's still going to reduce the chances of that happening. The virus is most likely to spread through water droplets in the air. Well, a cloth mask will stop water droplets from getting through. Even if it's still possible for an individual virus to pass between the threads of a cloth mask, you'll still be putting a limit on the virus's main means of transmission. So whatever. I'm not interested in convincing other people that they need to wear a mask. I'm just explaining why I have no problem wearing a mask myself. If people want to defy the new law and go out in public without wearing a mask, if that ends up extending the quarantine, I'd actually be kind of okay with that. as long as more people don't start dying because of it, that I don't really see that happening, but if you've been following the death counts that I've been mentioning in my videos every 2 weeks, that's still going down. The coronavirus cases are going up. A lot of that is just, the fact that there's more tests. More people are getting tested, so of course there's going to be more cases. And, if you dig down into the statistics, most people who are testing positive for the coronavirus nowadays are like between the ages of 20 and 40. So it's basically because those are the people who are going out and being exposed to the virus. The people who are high risk, the elderly and the immunocompromised, they know that they need to stay home. So that's what they're doing. They don't want to, they know that that they have a good chance of dying if they catch the coronavirus. That's why the death rate is going down. But if you want to make a real case for like how things really are and like as far as data that we should be acting on and deciding, whether we should move forward and reopening, it's the hospitalizations that we should be looking at, not the death rate or the coronavirus case count. Those aren't really that reliable. Like I said, the coronavirus case count, that goes up because there are more tests and, anyone can make that argument. And then the death rate being low, well, yeah, like I said, of course it's low because the people who are most at risk of dying are avoiding going out. And the death count isn't all that we're concerned about. There's still the fact that if too many people are getting sick from COVID-19, the hospitals are going to be overrun. So what you want to look at is the rate that people are being hospitalized from COVID-19. From what I've seen on our state's website, that's remained steadily low for the past month or so. There hasn't been a rise in hospitalizations like there has been with just general cases. And it's nowhere near as bad as it was in April. So based on that, I don't really see the problem with moving on to the next phase. In other words, if we start seeing more coronavirus cases as a result of things reopening, but the hospitalization rate stays low, I don't think that'll be a cause for concern. So that's my take on that. But on the other hand, if the hospitalization rate goes down and the death rate goes down, but the case count goes up, and our governor decides based on that we should either move back a phase or stay where we are, effectively extending the quarantine even more, I'd be like, hey, I'm fine with that. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I'm rather enjoying being quarantined, getting to stay home and do everything online because everyone else is doing stuff online, having takeout food delivered to my home without the extra charge. We're going to have an extended quarantine whether we need to or not. I say bring it on. And I know I'm in the minority of people who feel that way, and I know most people are really sick of being quarantined and are just dying for things to go back to normal. All I can say to that is if that's what you want, if you want things to go back to normal, wear the mask. I'm wearing my mask for your sake, not mine. But whatever. People are just going to do what they're going to do. And I'm just going to sit back and watch how it all plays out. I really can't believe I've done 9 of these videos now. I remember when I did the very first one at the beginning of March, I thought that was going to be the only video I would do on the coronavirus. Even when I did the second one, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be doing this regularly, and yet here we are. Yeah, I'm getting kind of sick of it, so I might do one more after this. Me being an ISTP, I don't plan things like this. I don't know, I guess it just depends on if anything new comes up in the next 2 weeks. We've got July 4th weekend coming up. As far as I know, that's a 3-day weekend for both me and my wife. We haven't quite figured out if we want to even attempt to do any traveling. Yeah, me being the SP that I am, haven't looked into that stuff yet, but anyway, enough rambling. First time I decided to come outside for one of these videos, it starts raining. Anyway, that's all I got.